What's up, Weekend Warriors? I'm back, the Content King. Even though I got a little bit of a hectic week going on, the wife's back to work. I'm here for the podcast. I'm in the car. I'm squeezing it in when I can. It's officially that time of year. But listen, we've reached the witching hour, as Scott Hansen would say. And it's been crazy. It's week 14 already. I actually can't believe it. I don't know if it's because my team stinks this year that it's gone by quicker than I can think. Or if it's just because I don't know what day it is anymore, but I can't believe it's week 14. It's been a fun ride so far, and looking into the league standings, which we're going to get into in a little bit, you got a race for the playoffs, we got a race for last place, so it's fun. You got kind of both sides of the spectrum here going on, and honestly, every single team has some skin in the game at this moment, at the top half and at the bottom half. So it's great to see. And obviously in our league, you got an extra week of the regular season, kind of keep your attention for one extra week. But without further ado, real quick, I'm going to recap last week. So week 13, I had Thursday night football. I had the over, and that did not hit, which was 7 picks in a row lost on the pod. But wait, Sunday, Jets, Vikings, over 44.5. They got it done to give me a 1-1 on the week, and I'm 11-14-1. I have 4 picks left. The road for above 500 is intact. I can go 500 even if I go 3-0-1. If I go 4-0, I'm back to 500. But what I will say, and I'll get to my NFL picks here in a minute, I've been kind of foreshadowing that I'm going to get hot. I'm streaky. But after the Vikings game, that over hit, I had a clean slate at 4 p.m. I had a clean slate at 8 p.m. And I had to pick the Saints on Monday Night Football, and I won. So just saying, starting to see the board a little bit better. So get out your notepad right now, and we'll get to my NFL picks in a minute. But recapping the fantasy week, I had Kevin over PP. That did not happen. Pearson was the high score of the week for the second time on the season. His team is hitting his stride now, and it's good to see. Maybe he's crawling out of the dumpster, as he said. His luck is changing, and momentum right now to carry you into next season. If his record was flipped with the roster that he has, he would have a pretty decent shot with his team kind of catching fire at the end of the season. So, big upset, not big upset, but big win there for Pearson over Kev to get 4 teams at 4-9 at the basement, which we'll get into in a minute. But I had Jake over Bert. That also did not happen. So 2 incorrect there. I had Valone over Terry. Valone did not beat Terry. But then I had Chris over Otley. That happened. And I had Dean over Ty. That did happen. So 2-3 on the week, not a great week. 34-31 for the season, and we mentioned the high score of the week was Pearson. So the standings real quick. Chris is in. He's in first place. He's got a 100% chance of making the playoffs. Valone is in. He's in second place. He's got a 100% chance of making the playoffs. Jake is not 100%. He'd have to lose out. Some other teams would have to win out. He's got the most points, or second most, I believe, in the league. And then you have Terry, who has a 79% chance. Then you got Otley and Brett knocking on the door. Otley started out the season 6-0. He is now 7-6. Quick math, 1-6 in your last 7. Tough stretch for Otley. Still has a chance to make the playoffs. Needs to win badly right now. And Brett needs to win and needs some help. It gives him a 6% chance. It's better than 0 with the other 4 teams at the bottom. But 4-9, 4 teams tied for 4-9. Kevin currently in the basement. He has the least points of the 4. Dean and Pearson play each other this week. That should be interesting. One of those teams has to lose in theory. I guess they could tie. And then me and Kev both have very, very tough matchups. So we'll get into that, but the race for last is for sure going to come down the next week. So jumping into this week, and before I do my fantasy predictions, I'm going to do my NFL predictions because I really feel good about the slate this week. And I'm going to make a couple notes here. The fishiest line of the week is the Detroit Lions. They opened at 1.5 favorites at home against the Vikings, who are 10-2. It's no secret I'm a Vikings fan. That line is telling to me. It opened at 1.5. It's now 2.5 point Detroit favorites, and the money is going on the Vikings. So the book loves Detroit, and as of this recording, the Vikings have a bout with the flu going through the locker room. That screams Detroit for me. I'm not taking that game, but I just wanted the people to know, if I wasn't a Vikings fan, I probably would take that game. It's a very fishy Detroit pick, and I lean that direction. I also like Dallas, 16.5. They won by, 40 against the Colts. It's going to be another absolute beat-off against Houston. It's going to be destruction. And they're my favorite teaser play this week. If you're afraid maybe of a backdoor cover, throw them in a teaser. In fact, I'm going to give a teaser on the show, not an official pick. Dallas, Kansas City, Buffalo, all favorites. I think Buffalo handles the Jets. Denver's going to beat Kansas City. If I lose money on that, I'm fine with that. It's not going to happen. So tease it up, 7 points. Get KC -2.5. Get Buffalo -2.5 alone. Brett, I hope you're writing this down. You're my rider, so I know you got to get in on this before the line changes. But my official picks tonight, Raiders -6.5. The Rams stunned the book last week. They lost to Seattle, but they covered. They lost 6 in a row. Aaron Donald, I don't think, is playing. They got no receivers. John Wofford might even play. It might be Baker Mayfield. Take the Raiders -6.5. They have a chance to make the playoffs. They're playing really good ball right now. It's chalky, but I think people might want to take the Rams because they made it close last week. I just don't see them keeping up. I think Jacobs has a nice game. Adams will probably score. I'm betting Jacobs' first touchdown tonight. I just think the Raiders win this game. My other official pick, I usually wait, but I'm on a roll, baby. Let's go. Ravens +2.5 in Pittsburgh. I've been on record being a Lamar hater. Huntley came in the game last week, led him to a game-winning touchdown. They're +2.5 in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh barely beat the Falcons last week. I think they're getting too much respect at home. Give me the Ravens +2.5. That's my other official pick. And I also like the 49ers playing the Bucks. This is not an official pick. -3.5 at home. Bucks off a dramatic win last week. Looked like crap the entire game. Looked good for the final 3 minutes and 30 seconds. The 49ers, on the other hand, getting a little bit of disrespect because they lost Jimmy G. Purdy came in. Didn't matter. I don't think Purdy's very good. The defense is going to give Brady fits. So take the Niners. So those are my NFL picks. I squeezed them in here in the middle of the show, change it up a little bit. Let's get into the fantasy picks. This is a big week for a lot of teams, and we mentioned it at the top of the show. But an easier matchup, probably the worst matchup, maybe you got Chris, who's rolling, against Kevin, who is rolling downhill. But I'll give Kev credit. His lineup this week looks the best it's looked in 5, 6, 7 weeks. Got Chubb, Gabe Davis, Jamar Chase is back, Keenan Allen's back, James Cook showed something for Buffalo. His team is not as good as Chris. Chris has Allen, Singletary, Diggs, Garrett Wilson hitting his stride, James Conner back from bye week, Devonta Smith 100 yards and a touch last week, and he's of course got CMC with the injury to Elijah Mitchell. He got 80% of the snaps, 80% of his carries last week. I'm taking Chris. It's a no-brainer. He's my pick to win the championship. He is without McLaurin and Gibson this week, but I think he gets it done against Kevin. And that helps me too. I need Kev to stay in the basement, so we'll see what happens. But Kev fighting, clawing to stay out of last place. Moving on to the next matchups, another one with not really implications for the top of the standings, but a really good matchup between Dean and Pearson. Of the 4 and 9 teams, I will admit they are definitely the best two. I talked about Pearson's team hitting his stride, gets Mixon back from concussion this week. Judy's back with no Sutton. And we've talked about Dean's team all year. Najee, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones on bye will hurt Dean. But he's got A.J. Brown. He's a beast. DK Metcalf, another beast. Herbert in a shootout against Miami. I think Dean needs Jacobs to outscore Adams tonight. I think that would be huge, but I'm leaning Pearson. Tony Pollard at home against Houston. Boy, that's so tasty. I think Dallas is going to kill him. But I think Dean definitely has a shot in this one, but I have to definitely go with Pearson in this matchup. So moving on to the next matchup, these two are big. Sunday, Shenanigans versus Taylor Ham. Terry versus Brett. This is the matchup of the week. We have another matchup of the week runner-up in Valone and Otley, but this is it. Brett wins. He still has a chance. Terry wins. He's pretty much in. So this is a big one, and it's a bad time for bye weeks. Brett, Jonathan Taylor, and Alvin Kamara on bye, although Kamara has sucked, admittedly. But his running back's still better than mine somehow. Jamal Williams, Deontay Foreman, Jeff Wilson. All three of those better than my one. So credit to Brett. But guys like DJ Moore and Treylon Burks, you're counting on those guys to score points. It's going to be difficult. I think Terry, with the Houston matchup with Dak, that's a blessing and a curse. They might just get up and kind of run. The defense could score some touchdowns. But Justin Jefferson, last time he played Detroit, he had 14 yards. He's going to go off this week in a shootout. He's also got DeAndre Swift in that game. Christian Kirk's been good in a Tennessee matchup that should score some points. I like Terry's team this week. I like his matchups. I think Brett's shorthanded. I've been picking against Brett a lot lately. I'm sorry, Brett. You don't have the luck this year. I think Terry's going to get it done. So moving on to the next matchup, which also has huge implications. Otley's on a skid. We've talked about it. Now he loses Lamar. He's got Huntley. I think that's pretty close to being even than more people think. You know, I'm down on Lamar. But it's the other pieces for me that have just gone downhill for Ott. Fournette's not the same. Even Dalvin hasn't had a great season. Ayuk is going to take a huge hit without Purdy. Gallup in that game, again, he better score the first, second, or third touchdowns, because after that it's going to be the mop-up crew. So, I mean, I've been on Valone all season. I'm sticking with him. It's been good for me. You know, he's got some potential question marks in Debo. Same thing with Ayuk without the quarterback, but maybe they'll give him some carries potentially. Waddle's questionable, but he's got Hollywood Brown off by. Eckler's still a beast. He's got Patrick Mahomes. I don't care about the matchup. I'm going with Valone, and I'm feeling good about these picks this week. I think I might do a clean sweep. Me versus Jake. An epic rivalry in the past. Jake admitted he's texted me. His team is on the skid. I will agree that some guys that we thought were beasts, like Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, still very good, but both guys have struggled as of late, especially Henry. I saw he hasn't had a run over 10 yards in 4 games. He's averaging under 3 yards a carry. He threw a touchdown a couple games ago and got one in. Last week, 40 yards against the Eagles. People are starting to figure out Tennessee a little bit. But Lockett scored in 5 straight weeks. He's still got Ken Walker, who's nursing an injury, should be back. This team is still poised for a playoff push. I don't think it's my favorite of the playoff teams. Mike Evans, another guy who's done nothing the last 5 weeks. Maybe he'll get hot at the end of the year and lead Jake to a victory. But this week, guys, talk about bye week problems. My players that are on bye this week: Michael Pittman Jr., A.J. Dillon, Brian Robinson Jr., Justin Fields, and Christian Watson, my hero, which has guys like Gus Edwards, Jerick McKinnon, Corey Davis, Pickens, who had 2 yards last week, and Jared Goff in my lineup. Not to mention Dameon Pierce. I'm projected to score 85 points. I'm trying to field the best lineup I can. I've used every fab dollar I have left. Jake's going to crush me this week. That's my pick. I got to hope that Kev loses, definitely Dean or Pearson loses, and then I can somehow pull off an upset next week, or I might be in the dumpster. So we'll see. It's been a first to last place tradition in this league over the last couple of years. Pearson did it a year ago. I think the year before that. I don't want to have revisionist history. I think Zach actually won and then he quit the league. Before that, I have to go back and look. But in any event, I'm going to try to avoid that. But me and Kev are probably the favorites to come in last. So listen, guys, glad I was able to do this. Next week, I'll be back in the lab. And, you know, that's the last week of the regular season. And then for the playoffs, we will have a guest on the show. So I'll be getting my notes ready. But take my NFL picks. Really feeling good about them. Get them in today. Why not? Then you have a little bit of money out there. Maybe get an open teaser with the Raiders if you want. I think they take care of business tonight. So, listen, commish out. Good luck to y'all here in Week 14. And we'll see you next week.